Hardin, our way that the government's going to shut down by Thursday.
Well, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I mean, it's kind of the same old, where it's kind of crisis governing or legislating and doing things at the 11th hour. But, you know, maybe if we weren't in such political dynamics, there'd be bigger concern of government shutdown. But I just don't see either party wanting to be a part of that right now. And I think that you'll see some grandstanding here and there over the next couple of days on certain elements of this or certain issues, and like the funding of the president's ability to, execute his immigration plan and all of that. But I do think that by Thursday evening we will have a funding bill, and that these folks will be ready to put this very unproductive congressional session behind them.
Is there a fear that they might put a poison pill in there, something that is so egregious attached to that President Obama wouldn't sign it, and then we'd have a showdown?
No, it's interesting. I mean, you would think that this provision that they're talking about putting in there that funds the entire government all the way through the fiscal year, meaning the end of September 2015, with the exception of certain, doing a shorter funding element or more of an interim funding element for the Homeland Security Department and the border security stuff. But you would think he would protest against that, but the signs we're getting and what we're hearing is that he's at least okay just to get a deal done to extend the immigration stuff more temporarily and then have another debate about it. I think he feels like he can win that debate early next year. I think it'll be a little bit more difficult than he thinks, but all signs point to the fact that he may sign it.
Republicans are in charge come the beginning of January in both the House and the Senate. Look into your crystal ball, Trey Hardin. Not necessarily what they're going to do, but what should they do? I mean, shouldn't they start having some type of message laid out? I mean, what do they want to put on the president's desk to force him to sign it, to embarrass him if he doesn't sign it? What's their strategy going forward?
Well, I mean, I think that they I know they have one. I mean, I've spoken to a number of them up there, and they're certainly excited. They're certainly preparing. They want to come out of the gate the right way, and I think one of the things that they should consider doing is sending the president a bill, a piece of legislation that that is reasonable and has been properly vetted, maybe once a week. Maybe it starts with doing border security. Maybe it starts the next week doing a tax reform provision. Maybe it starts the following week to do, just an element of Obamacare, not the whole thing. That is something that that maybe all sides can agree on. The thing you have to remember is that Mitch McConnell is going to run the Senate very differently than Harry Reid did, and he's going to allow the minority party, which will in that case be the Democrats, to offer amendments on the Senate floor to legislation. That is significant because then that is going to get some buy-in from Democrats on certain pieces of legislation because they're going to feel like they have some skin in the game, and it's going to enable deals to be cut, something that has not been able to happen over the last few years with Harry Reid there because he has shut that part of it down.
Once you start putting bills on the president's desk, it's almost like you've been in a situation where you don't want something to happen, but then you start negotiating, and then all of a sudden you find yourself halfway down the road, and you're like, well, I've kind of already agreed to this. I didn't want to do this in the first place, but now we've agreed to all this. So once you start putting something on his desk, you're more or less negotiating with him, which is a good sign, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how you get compromise. And, news alert to both Republicans, or I would say all Republicans and Democrats in Congress, and certainly this president, that it's called maturity and sitting down like adults and having a conversation and negotiating and recognizing that compromise means you're not going to get 100% of what you want, and so I think that needs to happen, and I think that everyone recognizes that. But I think that where the Republicans can be successful and show productivity, because I think they're going to be positioned to do it with these new political dynamics in the House and Senate, is to force call the president's bluff to to a certain extent. I mean, as you mentioned, he has had it easy over the last 6 years because he has not had to make a decision to sign or veto anything because nothing has gotten that far to his desk. We're coming off one of the most unproductive congressional sessions we've ever had. So I think we need to see what he's planning on doing his final 2 years. Call his bluff.
All right, now let's talk a little 2006 because everyone's getting a little 2006 fever. I think Jeb Bush is running.
You mean 2016? Yeah.
Yeah, 2016.
It would not surprise me. I think the little, he's kind of sounding a little bit more like a candidate for 2016. I think he sees more, as a result of these midterm elections, more of a road of opportunity. Again, it's something I think he wants to do on his terms as much as possible, as opposed to having a pound of flesh taken out of him by the party, which can tend to happen in Republican primaries. But at this point, it would not surprise me. I was really suspect, before the elections, but I think it's more likely now.
You've got him making a couple of speeches. You have his brother going out there saying a couple of things. You have Jenna Bush playing nice on the Today Show, right? I mean, it's the first family, if you will. But they know political theater, and they know that their brand sells when they're just being a good old family. And I think they're sort of trotting that out for Jeb.
Well, they are, but I mean, you just mentioned the key word, and that's the brand. And the Bush brand is not a good one right now nationally. I mean, I don't say that that's how I personally feel. I just think it's how the general, the public feels coming out after that the family may be a little bushed out to a certain degree, or that the country may be a little bushed out to a certain degree, coming out on the heels of President Bush's 8 years there. But this is a very different Bush. And it's important that he's out there kind of introducing himself to show people that he is different, that he has a different approach to governing and different style, even though they're from the same family. I think he'd have a long way to go with that. I think at the end of the day he would be successful showing people that, but I do think that will be a challenge for him.
There hasn't been a Republican nominee that's won the White House that wasn't named Bush since 1988.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that is interesting. I mean, it certainly shows that time flies, because it almost seems like yesterday. But,
right.
There will be some challenges that they'll have to overcome on that, and I think that. But they're doing the polling. They're already in the field, probably doing polling and research on that, and determining where their challenges are going to be on that. I think there are both challenges in the Republican primary side and the nomination process side, as well as the general election side. And but the Democrats have those challenges too with Hillary Clinton. I mean, there's positives there, but there's a lot of negatives there as well.
It's Tuesday, December 9th. I'll say Jeb runs and Jeb wins the nomination. That's my call.
I think if he runs, he wins the nomination too. I think it'll be. I think it'll push some people out of the race, but it'll keep a couple people in, and it will be. There'll be some very good debate. But I do think he'll end up being successful. Yeah.
Trey, have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. Bye.
6:30 here, Big 550 KTR.